sector experience as a laboratory officer at the county government of Kisumu, and also in the private sector, where he has worked with the CDC, that is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Kenya, with a lot of skills in malaria diagnosis and surveillance, laboratory quality assurance and control, epidemiological data analysis and statistics, field epidemiology methods, community health program monitoring, and he has also collaborated between government and international health agencies. So Duncan Ongai today is going to bring us the topic, transforming laboratory data to scientific abstracts and manuscripts, the scientific paper writing perspective. So I want us to welcome Duncan by a sign of an appreciation. The other time I taught you how to do that. When you go to the React sign on your phone or on your laptop, you can clap, you can send him flowers, you can celebrate him even as we welcome him to bring us this topic of data. Kindly, Duncan, I would like you to take over and bring the presentation to the members. We are ready and ready to learn. Welcome, Duncan.
Thank you so much, Nelly, for that wonderful presentation. Kindly confirm if you can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you, Duncan.
Thank you so much, Nelly. Let me take this opportunity to thank Lab Medicine Society of Kenya for giving me the opportunity to discuss this wonderful topic today with my fellow colleagues, and also thank the colleagues who actually joined for creating time besides their busy schedule to have this wonderful webinar, because it's always said that learning is always a continuous process. So you can always learn, is something that is a continuous process. So today, I think this one is going to be my third presentation. As had actually started, we started by doing the basic analysis, that is the descriptive analysis of laboratory data. We did descriptive analysis. We never did analytical analysis. Then we went to outbreak and surveillance monitoring, laboratory, the importance of lab. As we all know that lab plays a very critical role in outbreak and surveillance of most of the diseases that we actually handle in our laboratory. So today I'd want to take us through why are we not producing abstracts, and why are we not publishing manuscripts as laboratory officer. As Nelly had already alluded to, that we produce and we generate a lot of data as laboratory officers in the laboratory. And many a times we just generate the data, but we don't initiate, or we don't go further so that we can come up with an abstract or a manuscript out of it. He's always said that sometimes you can actually stay in the lab and you are doing a very wonderful job. But if you can't communicate to the rest of the world, nobody would know that you are actually doing a wonderful job. So how can you communicate to the world? How can you tell people that you are doing a wonderful job wherever you are? Maybe in the rural setup, or maybe in whichever place you are in. So the only thing that you can actually do so that you communicate to the whole world that you are doing a better job is transforming the data, the raw data that you've got in, or you are generating in the laboratory, to scientific abstracts, and further to abstracts. Just a little bit, maybe jogging our minds, why are we basically talking about abstracts and what is a manuscript? So abstract is just a snapshot of what is found in the manuscript. So this one just gives you just a preview, a quick preview of what is actually gotten in the manuscript. So manuscript is a detailed paper on the abstract. So you expound on it, but abstract is just basically a summary of what is supposed to go into the manuscript. So today I'll walk you through. I'd said when you want to do this, you must have your data. As a laboratory officers, we generate a lot of data. We've got a lot of data in malaria. We've got a lot of data in TB. We've got a lot of data in all the serological tests that we are doing in the laboratory. So today, kindly join me as I walk you through the abstract and manuscript. So at the end of it all, I'll take you through the practical bit of it. I'll show you some of the abstracts that we have actually done and some of the manuscripts that have also done at the end of it, after the end of the presentation. So going by that, I want to start the proper presentation. Kindly confirm that you can still hear me. Nelly?
We can still hear you.
You can still hear me. Thank you so much. Let me carry on now.
Yes.
Thank you. Let me carry on. The slides are not moving. The slides are not moving. Are they moving on your end? Nelly, are they moving on your end? They're not moving.
They're not moving from my end, no.
Oh, let me reshare, please. Apologies.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just reshare.
No problem. We'll wait for you.
So it's okay. Thank you. What about now?
Yeah, you're on the screen? Yes, they're moving.
Thank you so much. So our topic today is the transforming laboratory data into scientific abstracts and manuscript. I've actually given the introduction. So the introduction bit of it, why scientific paper? Why are we doing the scientific paper writing? Scientific paper writing is a systemic process in communicating research finding to a scientific community. So the scientific community would be the community that you would actually want to communicate the data that you've got or what you want to write about. So the audience is also very much important. You've also, by the time you are writing this, you should be privy to the audience that you'd actually want to communicate to. Then transformation of raw data is also transformation of the raw data into compelling narratives through systematic organization, clear writing, and through refinement. So research context gap in knowledge, you must have a gap in knowledge. What is the gap that you've actually identified? In other cases, is usually known as the problem statement. Then you must have the objectives. In the objectives, we've got the broad objective and specific objectives. Then it's supposed to follow what we call the IMRAD format. All the manuscripts and abstracts usually follow what we call the IMRAD format. What is IMRAD in full? So IMRAD basically means you've got the introduction, you've got the methodology, you've got the results section, and discussion section. The only thing that is not included here is the conclusion bit of it. So it's supposed to follow the IMRAD format, whereby you've got the introduction, talking about the context and research question. We've got the methods, how the study was conducted, whether this one was or a scooping a review, whether it was a systematic review, whether it was a retrospective review, whether this one was a cohort study, whether this one was a case control study, all those kind of studies. We in the research, I tend to believe most of us we've done research methodology. So you'll got to define what methodology did you actually use. Was it a desktop review? Was it a scooping review? Was it a systematic review? Then going to the results, what was found in the results? So as a rule of thumb, what is gotten in the results should not be in the discussion part. So results, you are supposed to discuss the results, whether you've got, you use the analytical method or whether you use the descriptive method. Just to jog your mind, when I talked about the descriptive analysis bit of it, you've got to have 3 elements. So the 3 elements are time, place, and person. That is TPP. They describe the time, describe the person, and describe the place. Then the discussion, you were just basically discussing, doing a discussion of what was gotten in the results. Then conclusion, you just conclude giving some kind of recommendations. So another introduction, that is introduction of 2. What are some of the additional components that you also need to add? So in the title and the authors, very much important. So while working on the title, your title, kindly do have a title. I would want maybe just to say that have a catchy topic or a sexy topic, like having we don't bury animals like human beings. We did an abstract sometimes back on anthrax, and that one really was a topic, and it attracted most of the reviewers and readers online. So kindly, while working on the topic, let your topic to be very catchy, and is supposed not to exceed 20 words. Is supposed not to exceed 20 words. Then in terms of the authors are also, or be clear about your authors, like who is the first author, who is the second author, who is the third author, and who is the last author. So the first author is the one who is actually doing the work. Then the second author maybe would be in terms of maybe somebody who's actually participated, and somebody who is giving some kind of support to the first author. What kind of support maybe one would be looking at? We've got a lot of support that maybe as an author you need, so that maybe you come up with a proper manuscript and abstract. Then the third, fourth, and the rest would actually follow in that. But the last author should be the most prominent person or the most in your organization in terms of maybe hierarchy. But the first, the second, third, and in the middle, you will actually just have the names. But the first author is now the corresponding author, is now the one who is actually doing the work. Then the abstracts you'll also talk about, I've talked about, it gives the summary, it gives a snapshot of the manuscript that you maybe want to talk about. Then we've also got the keywords. Keywords are very much important. At the end of the abstract, you're supposed to come up with the keywords. Like when you talk about PCR, what is PCR? So that somebody going through your abstracts would actually comprehend what is a PCR. Is it polymerase chain reaction? What is a DQA? Is the DQA is a data quality audit. So you've got to have like many a times most of the most of the organization usually require a request for only 6 or 5 definition of terms of keywords. Then in terms of references are also very important. It depends with the kind of references that you've actually used and referencing style that you're using. We've got different types of referencing styles. So we've got Zotero, we've got EndNote, and we've also got Mendeley. So kindly, they are very different. So the ones that you've used while you're having the reference, So in terms of the references, while you are referencing your manuscript, it should be in a chronological order. Like you start with number 1 up to number 20. So it also depends whether you are using Vancouver as a referencing material or you're just using the normal Zotero in. So we've always seen the ones that are usually referenced as 1 up to 20, or we're just using the etal ones. So that one you should also be very much clear while doing the referencing. Then the supplementary materials, these ones are usually followed, or these ones are usually gotten in the materials and equipments. So you are also advised to use the EMRAD, to use the EMRAD format that I've said, that is introduction or methodology, results, and discussion format. For clarity and consistency, you start with the EMRAD, very much important. Then connect findings with a cohesive narrative. Be like somebody who is doing a story. Abstract is like a story. Let it flow like a story. So that from introduction, you move to methods, and you move to results, then you move basically to, or lastly to conclusion. Then use figures, tables, and statistics effectively so that you support your data. The figures, a rule of thumb that are said in the descriptive analysis, when we are doing the descriptive analysis, was that a rule of thumb, while you are using a figure, kindly label the figure below the graph that you've done. Below. Figures are usually labeled below the graphs that you are using. In terms of tables, while you're using a table, the rule of thumb in this use of tables, you label on top of a table. If you want to do the labeling of a table, you label it on top of a table. I'll show you a practical example. So be like figure 1, you label it below. Table 1, you label it on top. Then the statistical methods that are used. In these statistical methods, like if you've used Stata, these are the statistical methods. If you've used Stata, kindly mention which Stata version. Have you used Stata version 15? Have you used Stata version 17? Or you've used Stata version 20? If you've used SPSS, which version have you used? Have you used SPSS version 26? Which version? So SPSS stands for the Social Statistical Package for Social Scientists. If you've used an R as your statistical analysis, maybe gadget or software, kindly mention you used an R. If you've used or any other, or maybe GraphPad, Prism, in your analysis, you also mentioned that. So we did this, we conducted this, but we analyzed this using this. If you've used an Excel, also mention that you've used Excel, and the continuous variables and categorical variables were represented in terms of proportions. Proportions are just means, medians, and modes. So centers of central tendencies, we've got measures of central tendencies, and we also got measures of the dispersion. So measures of central tendency, we talk about mean, median, and mode. While measures of central tendency or measures of dispersion, we talk of standard deviation and interquartile range. So in your data organization, kindly, before writing, ensure that the data is cleaned and validated. So before you do the analysis, before the analysis is done and you've collected your data, before you start writing, kindly ensure that you do away with all the variables that you don't need in your analysis. Any blanks, pages, anything that you feel that is you don't need before you do the proper analysis. So properly analyze statistically, I've talked about that. Then we've got the visualization in clear figures and tables. So visualization is usually gotten in most of the statistical packages that we've got. That is, this one is usually done with R, mostly in R. R has got what we call R Studio, whereby you can actually do the visualization. Then they should also be reproducible and well documented, very much important. Then you maintain detailed lab notes, document procedures in real time. Then you organize data systematically. Let your work be organized systematically. Then there's a backup files. You back up your files so that you don't lose your data. So each and every time you've worked on something, always ensure that you save your data. Then you start early, you revise oftenly, and focus on one section at a time. So why are we focusing on one area at a time? So if you are doing introduction bit of it, so in introduction, you should have what we call an inverted funnel. Why are we talking about an inverted file? So inverted file is whereby you start with a global perspective, you narrow it down to regional, then you nail it down now to Kenya. So like an example, we are basically talking about we'd want to do an abstract on malaria. So doing the introduction bit of it in the inverted funnel way, you've got to give us the global statistics of malaria. Kindly give us the global, come to Africa, do Kenya, and do what we call now the study site. So maybe the study site would be maybe Kisumu, or it would be maybe, it could be in Nairobi, Kisumu, or any other point. So kindly also mention, so in that inverted order, so that you narrow it down and you come to your study site. Then use referencing materials. I've talked about the Zotero, Mendeley, and EndNote, and they keep their journal. So always, by the time you start writing, kindly have a journal at the end, at the back of your mind. Where would you want to send your work to? Maybe you are doing a manuscript. Where would you maybe want to send your manuscript to? Is it BMC? Is it PA? Is it PLOS? Is it African Institute Journal? Which kind of journal? Is it Frontiers? We've got several journals. But if you want to check on the performance of a journal, you're supposed to go to what we call Janitor Journal, so that you get to know what is the rejection rate of each and every journal that maybe you would want to talk about or you'd want to know. They'll tell you a choice of a journal is very important. Don't go to a journal whereby after submitting your data or submitting your work, it will be rejected, or the rejection rate is very high. Kindly go to a journal whereby the viewers or the readers in that journal is from divergent maybe view, kind of maybe people who can actually read your journal, or people who can reach your journal are from a divergent profession, so to speak. So the choice of journal is very much important. I talked about descriptive analysis. Why descriptive analysis? Very much important. Descriptive analysis. I've said we are talking in terms of roles. That is, we are talking about measures of central tendency, measures of spread, that is dispersion, and analytical bit of it. So we've got the mean. We are just jogging our minds. We've got median. We've got mode, and the standard deviation. So the first three, the mean, median, and mode, these ones are measures of central tendency. Very much important. And you use as a rule of thumb, at what particular time do you use a standard deviation, and what time do you use an interquartile range? You only use a standard deviation if you multiply the mean times 2 is more than the standard deviation. Then you are now, if the mean times 2 is more than the standard deviation, now you are allowed now to use the mean. And why, at what particular time do you use the standard interquartile range? If the mean is times 2, you are allowed to use now the median. You don't use mean and the standard deviation. If the mean times 2 is is more than the standard deviation. In that particular time, you use median and interquartile range. But if the mean is okay, use a mean and standard deviation. So that is now the rule of thumb, while you want to do what we call now the results bit of it. Let's not have the results, let's not have mean, we have median, and we have the standard deviation. You should be very much categorical. What do I use? What was my mean? What was my standard deviation? What was my interquartile range? Interquartile range is just the difference between a minimum figure and the highest figure, the minimum and the maximum. So minimum minus maximum minus the minimum, it gives you the interquartile range. I think we are very much okay with that. Then we've got the coefficient variation, which is relatively variability expressed in terms of percentages. So time, place, and person. Time of the occurrence, study site of the location, and age of the most affected. So this one is just the distribution pattern. So in terms of mean, median, and the standard deviation, how do we do them? So we've got the frequency and proportions. So have the trend analysis, we can do the seasonal patterns, we can have the histograms, and we can also have squid. If you've got a squid data, that's why I was talking about the mean and the median. If the data is skewed, then you use a median. That is what it actually means. So some of the people usually ask, why? What is the main finding? So this one is usually found in the results section. So what does the story, what does the data tell? What is your data? What can you deduce from your data, from your results section? What is the findings? Those are the most questions that you usually ask. Which data supports the primary conclusion? So in the primary conclusion, what do you have at the end of it all? Do you have, what can you conclude? What is your conclusion from your data? Then what are the limitations, which are also very important? Though limitations, we don't factor them in abstract. We only factor them in when coming up with the manuscript. I talked about the manuscript. Manuscript is a detailed bit of abstract. So you will expound on it, and you'll have the study limitations. Like I was doing this, but I wasn't able to do it because I chose maybe very few study sites. So this one never gave me just an holistic overview of whatever was what we were investigating. So those are some of the limitations that maybe one would maybe talk about in terms of the limitations. So recommended writing order. So writing also has got order, and it must be followed, because this one is what we call international order. So figures and tables, your data should be visualized. So this one will be gotten, or this one will be captured in tables, and figures are only allowed in the manuscript. They are not allowed in the abstract. Then the results describe what the figures show. Very much important. You got a figure, you got your own figures, but put them into words. Don't use the words in an abstract. Don't use figures in your abstract. Only kindly convert the figures that you've got into words and explain. Then we've got the methods. Explain how you got these results. Was this a systematic review? How did you do it? How was it done? What was actually the process that enabled you maybe to do this? So you can actually say, we conducted a retrospective a prospective review of records in these malaria reporting tools. And these ones were the variables that we were looking at. So we were looking at age, sex, what in MOH, maybe 204, MOH 705, MOH 711, MOH 240. So you've got to describe all those kind of tools that you used and the method that you used. Was it a desktop preview? Was it through KHIS that we always do? Was it a comparative analysis that you use? Was it through data abstraction? Did you abstract the data? And which are the tools that you used in the data abstraction? So introduction, you set up the research question, very much important. What do you want to answer? What is the gap? What is the problem statement that you have? Then abstract, you summarize everything, you put them using what we call now the IMRAD format. Then the title, it captured the, just in a nutshell, somebody will be able to tell this one is what you maybe want to talk about, and try to your title to be very much catchy so that it attracts somebody to read your abstract. Then success comes from careful planning and be honest. Let us not have what we call plagiarism. Let us not cook figures, or let us not massage the figures so that you can actually fulfill your ego, or maybe you want to suit some kind of outcome, so you are messaging the data to suit that. Let's be honest in our writing. So that is usually called let's not plagiarize. Let's not have such kind of dishonesty while doing the reporting or doing the abstract. Then you follow the IMRAD. I've talked about that. Introduction still. So we've got the different sections that are talked about, the IMRAD. What is found in the introduction section? So introduction section, you can have the objectives, and I talked about the inverted funnel, whereby you've got to describe what you're talking about. And you can also have just a word in hypothesis. You can either have alternative or null hypothesis in your introduction. We know the alternative and the null hypothesis. Then in methods, be brief and be clear, be precise on that. Be clear, let it come out clearly that this is what we did. So that if somebody is in Kirinyaga and would want to do, or would want to do the same study that you did somewhere in Mombasa, somebody can just follow whatever you did, and it does the replica of the same. It just does the same in Murang'a and the one that is done in Mombasa. And maybe the results can be different, but let the procedure be the same. That can be repeated or be replica somewhere else. So main conclusions and the implications, very much important. Have your conclusions and draw them. The conclusions are usually drawn from the results that you've got. Don't introduce any other that wasn't discussed or something that is not in your between your reach. Anything that is outside, never do the conclusion. Never introduce any other thing outside what you've done in the results section. So we have the funnel approach we talked about broad, and you narrow it. Then you be specific. What is known, identify the gap, which is the problem statement, state the objectives and hypothesis, then end with what you did. So in methods, detailed protocols, materials, analysis, and the techniques used. Sufficient data detail for replication. Include statistical analysis that I've talked about, SPSS, data, R, advanced Excel, which is also very much important. You can also analyze using that, or you can use graphical pad Prism. All those kind of analysis that maybe you would want to use, and then you reference. Very much important. I've talked about if you use Zotero, you use Mendeley, or you use EndNote, very important. And in these methods, the statistical, we've got now the p-values and the confidence intervals. So I said the p-values, the confidence intervals, it shows you how far or how wide your sample is actually distributed. A p-value of 0.05, that is 95% confidence interval, shows you how wide or how far is your sample from the reference point. So this one is, maybe you can actually say I used a confidence interval of 95%, which is p-value of 0.05. I used 98%, which is 0.02 confidence interval. Then you can actually maybe say I used 99, which is 0.01, which is most accurate. Then you can use maybe 90% confidence interval, something of that sort. You should, those ones also needs to come out clearly. And you should also know how to interpret the p-values and the confidence intervals. So any value that is or as what we call the null value, any value that includes 1 is protective. Any value that is above 1 shows a strong association, while 1 that is below 1, that is a weak association. So it depends with what you use, whether you use what we call the odds ratios or relative risk. Odds ratios, where do we use them? Do we use them in court studies, or do we use them in case control studies? It should be very much clear while you're using the p-values and the confidence intervals. So in the research sections, present your findings objectively with visual, present findings objectively, use past tense. We did this, we conducted this. That is the essence of using the past tense. Don't do it in present, because it's something that you are done, something that had already been carried out. We carried out a desktop review, or we did a data abstraction on this and this and this and this and this. Kindly use past tense. Then lead the data on the interpretation, which I've talked about. Reference figures and tables include statistical significance. So any value that is between which has got 1 is statistically, which one is not statistically significant. You also need to discuss about that. So this one was statistically significant. Why? And this one was not statistically significant. Any value that is not statistically significant is supposed to be subjected to what we call multivariate and bivariate analysis, using what we call linear regression, so that you can actually test or assess what we call the associations. So any value that is not statistically significant, kindly subject them to bivariate and multivariate analysis, so that you can have what we call linear regression model on that. Then you move from most of to the least important findings, which is very much important. So what do we have in the discussion? And what should be in the discussion? So restate main findings, have the main findings, compare with the existing literature. So somebody would ask you, what is novel? What is new? So you've got to have what you have. You've got to compare this with the existing review. Kindly just do some kind of a search or background checks on what the study that you are doing. Does it concur with what was done maybe in Iran, or something that was done in Bangladesh, or something that a study that was done in Uganda? If it's different, what is the difference in the conclusion? Very much important. So you've got to relate. A study that was done in South Africa concurs with this. A study, it doesn't concur with a study that was done in Morocco, something of that sort. Then suggest future directions. Future directions simply means you give recommendations. Then you can address limitations honestly. Then end with a strong conclusion, which can actually be implemented. A strong conclusion, come up with a strong solution, whether it's just one, have one recommendation. This one is what we recommend, or we recommended this, or we recommended further studies to be done on this. So, on the best practices, what are some of the best practices that we recommend? So each should stand alone, or should be clear, descriptive legends. That is in terms of the graphs, you should have the legends. I'd said when I was doing the descriptive analysis that the legends in a graph, a graph should have the legends. I'll show you practically how they're supposed to be done. Then you're supposed to have high resolution images, very important. Let your images be very much clear. Then consistent formatting, very much important. Then statistical annotations, have your statistically well chosen. If you want to use a stater, use the stater. Don't use a stater and at the same time you're using SPSS and at the same time you're using R, or you're using advanced Excel. Kindly pick on one. Kindly pick on one and have your analysis done with one. So the color blinded friendly platters. So you not have many colors. No, don't decorate so much your manuscript. Then tables versus figures. Be precise, have precise values, multiple variables, and figures have trends, patterns, and visual impact. So what are some of the, I would say, what are some of the common pitfalls to avoid while doing the abstracts? So over interpreting results, I said very well, if you go me right, that while doing the interpretation, only interpret what you got. Don't go interpret or don't over interpret your own results in what you in the abstract that you are developing or the manuscript that you only discuss what you've done, all the figures that you've done, or the figures that you've got in place. Those are the figures that you need to discuss. Don't have your imaginations. Don't put in things that are not there in the study. So weak introduction that doesn't justify the study. Don't have the weak justification. Have a strong justification. After in the problem statement, then justification. But these ones are usually just gotten in the manuscript. They're not in the abstract. While you're doing the manuscript, have what we call the justification and the problem statement. So the problem statement is basically the gap that you got. What is the gap? Why are we doing this? What is the gap that we may be gotten in the lab? What is the gap? We are seeing a gap. So we need to do this and this and this and this, and this just to investigate. So justification is justification. Why are we doing that? Or why are we doing this manuscript? Or why are we doing this kind of study? What is the importance of it all? Then the results should include interpretation, very important, discussion that simply repeats results. I'd say that anything that is discussed in the results shouldn't be repeated in the discussion. Discussion, you are basically discussing what was in the results. Then ignoring contradictory findings, which is also not allowed. Poor figure quality, kindly ensure that your figures are of good quality. Then inconsistent terminology. Don't, I'd said we have keywords at the tail end of your abstracts. You're supposed to have the terms or the keywords. Kindly ensure that you've described them. Don't just use the terms without or defining them. Kindly define the terms so that somebody can actually refer to them. Then excessive use of jargons is also not allowed. Then the first draft to final version. Content revision, structure flow, very much important. Clarity revision, sentence structure. Abstracts. And structured abstracts doesn't have the IMRAD format, while your structured format has got the IMRAD. That is what makes the difference between the two. Structured abstract has got IMRAD, follows IMRAD format, while unstructured follows doesn't follow IMRAD format. Then technical revision, very much important. The grammar style, very much important. Which one are you using? Which font are you using? Are you using font 12? And which language version are you using? Is it Times New Romance, or is it which one are you using? Kindly ensure that you are very much clear. And when it comes to the language, each and every journal has got his own language, and majority of them usually go for the Times New Roman. So ensure that By the time you're doing this, maybe you've not used Arial and any other thing. Then you final polish and you formatting and reference is very important. So journal selection, very important. I talked about journal selection. Always ensure that you send your work or what you've done, the abstract that you've done, or the manuscript that you intend to develop to the right channel. So like or you've done something on serology. You've done maybe something on malaria. Kindly find the right channel that you'd want to submit your manuscript to and your abstract. Kindly also find the right abstract that you maybe want to or submit it to. To open access options, publications timelines are also there, and formatting requirements are also there, very much important. Your scope also very important, and the audience. Then the final bit of it is ethical considerations. So most of the studies that we always do, apart from the abstracts and the rest, you are supposed to have what you call your work must have ethical consideration, and it has to be passed through ethical review boards if you want to do a study, not so that if you want to publish and the rest, it must pass through ethical consideration. And you, after passing the ethical consideration, you are supposed to have what you call the NACOSTI. NACOSTI is just a permit that allows you to do your study, or maybe the research you want to do. But in this case, we are only doing the abstracts and we are only doing the publication. We might not need those kind of ethical considerations and the rest. So you also need to declare the conflict of interest, your source of funding, acknowledge all contributors, report methods and results honestly, cite sources appropriately, and handle data responsibly. So this bit of it is usually just in the manuscript. You acknowledge all the contributions, very important. Proper authorship attribution. Author 1, what was his contribution? Author 2, up to the last author, which is usually the most prominent person, maybe in the highest ranked person, maybe in the institution. Then report the methods with the results. Honestly, don't massage data, because majority of these journals, maybe where you'd want maybe to send this data to, they'll ask you for the raw data. But if you massage the data, this one will be rejected, I'm telling you. So that will form the part of the rejection. So let your work not be rejected just because you've messed up with your data or you've massaged the data. Then you cite the sources appropriately. You cite the sources, and you need to read so that you also get to know whatever work that you are doing was also done somewhere else. What was the results in then? Do they concur with what you've done? And if they doesn't concur, then you can give the recommendation. Is also allowed. So practical, these ones I've talked about. These ones are usually used in the lab in case maybe you want to get a data from laboratory information system. You can also do that. I've talked about the statistical softwares. We have the dashboard review, mostly in the KHIS and mostly in KHIS, that is Kenya Information Systems. Then the data export methods, establish protocols for extracting and analyzing laboratory data systematically. Then the practical tips. This one is basically practical tips on how you can do this. So write regularly. Writing is an art. So start small with daily sessions, and then you beat the marathon. You blow it to a full blown. Then you can also use the reference materials, that is Zotero mainly and EndNote, and follow target journal guidelines from the start. Be concise. Every word should earn its place. Show, don't just tell. Use data to support your claims. Don't justify whatever you've done. Let your data speak for itself. Then maintain a logical flow. Each paragraph should connect. I'd said An abstract or a manuscript is like a story. It flows from the beginning up to the end. So the define abbreviation, very much important. Transformation of the data, lab data to be published manuscript is a that improves practice. Very much important. By this time, you'll be actually be talking to the whole world. You'll be expressing what you've done to the whole world, which is very much important that you'll be appreciated. So the goal is clear, honest communication of your standing that advises scientific knowledge and allows others to build upon your work. Very important. Would you like a detailed guidance on specific writing? Prioritize clarity over complexity. Be clear, don't be complex. Be honest, very important. Acknowledge and follow ethical guidelines. So basically, these ones are just an example. I've always done it. So the first one is just giving us the trend analysis over time. So this one was uptake from July to August. You can actually see those ones we're having the line graph, and it's also giving us the trend. 2 is now giving us these ones are the graphs. It has got the malaria species and the rest. This one is best. We have this one. We are having the frequencies and the proportions. Proportions in terms of percentages, very important, and it is terms of a graph, x and y axis. Then this one is in terms of who is most affected. I talked about that in terms of time, place, and person. So this one is person. We've got now the age groups. Who is mostly affected? These ones are now the graphs. So this one is also the distribution of cases. We have the proficiency testing. This one is also just a graph. So this one is also a table. You can also do tables, but while doing the manuscript, you are only entitled, so the journal would dictate for you how many tables and how many graphs are expected of you, or how many graphs and tables should you have. So this one is an epi curve. Epi curve is just epidemiological curve showing a trend, mostly used in outbreak investigation. It gives you when the outbreak was in the peak and when it really subsided. Then this one is just a table. The same is also a table and a graph. So on that, I want to acknowledge the following, but before that, I want to take you to the practical bit of it. I show you some of the abstracts. So let me just in advance acknowledge the Lab Medicine Society of Kenya, Kisumu County Government, National Malaria Control Program, and Field Epidemiology Program, and above all, the Ministry of Health. So let me take you through let me show you some of the abstracts. Let me unshare this. So kindly confirm that you can still see my screen. Nelly?
Yes, we can see your screen.
See my screen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So now let me take you to the practical bit of it. Yeah, I've shared.
Sorry, Duncan, have you shared?
Yeah, I've shared. Are you able to see it?
No.
You're not able to see it. Let me share again. I didn't share. Yeah, I didn't share. What about now?
Yes, it's up now.
Is there? So confirm that we
yes, we can see
able, if you are able to see my screen. So the screen.
I can see it. You can see it.
You can see it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nelly. So this one I want to take you through. This one is basically just an abstract. So this one is the abstract that I did. Is about Plasmodium vivax in northern Kenya, capacity building for detection and response, Wajir County, July 2025. So that is the title, the section that I was basically talking about. So we've got the title, The title is about PVIVAX. Then coming now to the authors. So authors are supposed to be affiliated to organizations. So we've got the authors, we can have 1 and 2. 1 and 2. We've got 2, Evo, 3, 3, 3, 3 until the end, which is now 4, who is now Kibor Ketanyi, who is now the head of malaria control program, who is now the most prominent person maybe in who was in the study. So the most senior person who was in the study was the head of the program. So in terms of affiliation, we've got the Field Epidemiology and Laboratory Training Program. We've got Division of National Malaria Control, Minister of Health. Then we've got County Government of Wajir County. As affiliation, we've got 1, 2, and 3. So in the same, we've got have now the abstract. So in the abstract, it has followed the IMRAD. I've got the background, or I've mentioned the background. I've done some background checks. Have got the methods. Then from the methods, I've got the results. So maybe just to take you through the results. So the results starts like this. The outbreak predominantly affected young and middle-aged adults with a median age of 25 years, interquartile range of 16 to 48. I think you've gotten it. So this means it meant that what we had, the data was skewed. So we could not use standard deviation and mean. So that's why we chose median and interquartile range. Then it went further and said challenging typical epidemiology where children under 5 bear the highest burden. Majority of cases were locally transmitted with 1.7 linked to travel. Diagnosis favored this to this and this. So that one was basically on results. Then coming to conclusion, I had my conclusion well written and also had my keywords. So my keywords was data quality assessment as the DQA, and I also had proficiency testing and also had PCR and malaria outbreak as some of the words. So conclusion is also there. Wajir County malaria outbreak was a unique event driven by local transmission. Local transmission in that I've already discussed in my results that the local transmission was at 93%. Only imported cases were at 1.7%. So somebody can actually follow you. The story is flowing. That is what I meant. So after that, you are just done with the abstract. So abstract, background, methods, results, and conclusion. Then title, we've got the authors and we've got the affiliations. Very, very much important. So let me unshare that and take you back to now abstract on the same that we also did. So Nelly, kindly confirm that you can see my abstract, my manuscript.
Yes, Duncan, we can see. And kindly, can you increase the size?
Oh, let me
Duncan,
increase the size.
Thank you.
So it's okay. Thank you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
This one, the one that I showed you was a abstract. It had the IMRAD format. Background, which is also the introduction. We had the methods. We had the results, and we had the discussion and conclusion. So this one is also just a manuscript that was developed from that. And this one is malaria outbreak investigation and data quality audit in Wajir North Sub-County, Wajir County, July 2025. So I've got the title. I've got the authors. So after the authors, I've got the affiliations. I've got the affiliations. So the first thing that follows after you've got the affiliations and you've got the authors and you've also introduced the title, now we come now to the abstract that we did. The abstract that I showed you with all those kind of sections, all those sections are there. They are included. They're just included. You can actually see maybe from the methods. We conducted a cross-sectional investigation from, this is the period, in the 5 selected facilities in Wajir North Sub-County. And the study utilized a retrospective record review of malaria reporting tools, including MOH204AB, MOH545, and KHIS. ODK, that is Open Data Tool Kit, was used in the data abstraction of the demographic and the clinical data for 179 confirmed malaria cases. I think that is very clear. That can be repeated anywhere. So after we are done with the abstract, we are done with the abstract. Now we come to the proper introduction that I said. So you come to the inverted funnel. You start with the broad as you narrow down you narrow it down. You start with is an inverted funnel, whereby we've got a lot on the top as you narrow it down now to the study size. So we start with the world, the global, we come to regional, we come to Kenya, we come to Africa, Kenya, and back to Wajir County as a whole. That is now the essence of having the inverted format funnel. So that one is basically just introduction, just doing still introduction. Then we'll come to methods, which is very important, materials and methods that you use. You've got to describe the study sites. And the study sites, you are allowed to use what we call QGIS to help you draw the graph of the study area or the study site. You can also use R as a software and use what we call the ggplot in the R software, the R Studio software, to draw the map of a study site. So that is basically just description of the study sites. Then we've got now the investigation period. When was it done? The investigation period was from July 21st through July 25th, 2025. Then who was investigated? Who was your investigation population? Whom did you target? So your investigation population are now the tools that you used. So our investigation population consisted of records review. That was your population. This included malaria reporting tools in all those MOH tools. Then we've got the investigation design. And this one I've said is a cross-sectional design utilizing retrospective data review of the data. Investigation design. So you can actually pick what is now the differences between an abstract and a manuscript, whereby now manuscript is a development or there is just a thorough version of an abstract, while abstract was just a summation, a summary, just a snapshot of what is gotten in the manuscript. So data collection and processes and analysis. How did you analyze your data? So we said the data were entered in Microsoft Excel and analyzed using Stata software. We calculated measures of central tendency and dispersion for continuous variables and frequencies and proportions for categorical variables. Facility test positivity rates were assessed and data quality indicators were calculated to evaluate completeness, accuracy, timeliness. That is basically DQA. So then where did we maybe get our ethical consideration for? So the protocol was approved by Ministry of Health. Very important to mention if at all you need ethical consideration. Then we went to results. So we described the results. We just did the description of the results. Description of the results, description of the results, description of the results, still description of the results. Then we went to After the description of the results, now we went now to discussion, whereby we now got the discussion bit of it. We discussed what we had in the results. Then after the discussion, it was very lengthy. It was very, very, very lengthy. Then we went to data quality constraints. Then we went to surveillance system limitations. These ones were some of the limitations. Then we finally went to conclusions and recommendations. We got the recommendations that of the study. What were some of the recommendations that were there? Then these ones are what I meant by the rule of thumb while using tables and while using the graphs. So this one is a table, tables and figures. So you can actually see table 1 is summary of assessed health facilities in Wajir North Sub-County, July 2027. Is labeled, this one is a table, is labeled on the top of the table. Let me show you another one. So this one is a figure. Figure is labeled on below the graph. You can actually see figure 1, that one was table 1. Figure 1, age sex distribution of confirmed malaria cases in Wajir. I think we are very much clear. And looking at the graph, you can't actually see the grid lines, that the legends are not there. And it's very clear. It's well mentioned. There's no other colors. We only use 2 colors to show this one was male and female. Very clear. And the figure is also labeled in terms of time, place, and person. Age sex distribution of confirmed malaria cases in Wajir North Sub-County. Time, July 2025. So table 2 is also labeled on top, just to show you. Then we also got, I also had the summary, which is table 3. And you are allowed to highlight something that the proportions were too high, having no and having the blank spaces. So this one was, I'd say this one is a epidemiological curve, which is usually used in outbreak investigation. This one you can use because even as laboratory staff, we always analyze cholera samples, and cholera is one of the diseases that are usually flagged under IDSR. IDSR is Integrated Disease Surveillance and Response. So cholera is one of the 36 diseases that are flagged by the IDSR and needs to be reported real time. Very much important. So this one is also just a figure. You can see we've labeled it. Below it, we've got a table, which is table 4. Then we've got the references. So the referencing bit that is used here is Zotero. You can actually see this one is a Zotero. If you've used Mendeley, it will also appear differently. If you've used Vancouver or you've used EndNote, will also appear differently. So thank you so much, colleagues, for listening to me. Any other thing maybe that is not captured today? Rome was also not built in one day, and we shall still continue learning as colleagues. We shall also continue having new updates. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I think that marks the end of our presentation today. Thank you, and over to you, Nelly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Duncan, for that elaborate and very educative presentation. We really appreciate the work that you've put into that and your love for statistics. Thank you so much. Members have really enjoyed as from the comments in the comment sections and the reactions that have come with that. Excellent presentation, sir. That is from Benson Luseneka. And more of that, very good presentation. Eric, listening from Tasia, clear sound, clear presentation, and good demonstrations there. And even the examples, the Word document, the PowerPoint presentations were well explained and well presented, very audible. Those are some of the comments from the listeners and the viewers in the house. So we really appreciate you Duncan for that and for the good work that you've put into that. Members, before I go to the questions that are here, I have some few questions for Duncan. I just want to remind you, and it has been posted on the chat section, that LMSK will be having an annual dinner on 28th of November, 2025 at Pride Inn Westlands, Nairobi. So there's a link there. If you click it, you will register and you will be guided further on it. So you're welcome, and there will be CPD points that will be earned even out of, as you eat your dinner, you get your CPD points, because we'll have some presenters and speakers there with us. So back to Duncan and to the questions that we have here for you, sir. I'll start with George Njau. George Njau says, I have been able to write 3 abstracts and I'm looking forward to produce manuscripts. How many words or pages should a standard manuscript have? And also, again from George Njau, he says, can a model manuscript be shared so one can take time to internalize? So Duncan, maybe you'll start with those questions.
Thank you so much, Nelly, and thank you so much, Njao, for the wonderful questions. Thank you for listening. To your first question, you've said you've got 3 abstracts that you've done. So you would want to know the number of words that is actually capped to read. So if you got me clearly, Njao, I said each and every journal is unique to itself. And each and every journal has got its own guidelines. So by the time you are done with the manuscript and you've done the abstract, I tend to believe you now developed a very, very elaborate and clear manuscript. So on the journal selection, depending on what you've done, maybe be it malaria, be it what the kind of topic that you've done, kindly go and select a journal, then go through the guidelines of that journal. Mostly, journals, they allow from 2,500 words to 5,000 words. So that is the allowable. But each and every journal is unique to itself. So if you want to maybe send your work to BMC, they'll give you their guidelines on how you are supposed to submit. If you want to take it to PLOS, they'll also tell you. If you want to take it to Janitor, if you want to take it to Frontiers, it depends. The choice is yours. But each and every journal has got its own guidelines. So having the model, maybe you wanted a model manuscript to be shared. I think I've got several manuscripts that I can share. So that you get to have a look at them. But most importantly, most of these manuscripts are just there online. You just go Google in. It depends with the search engines that you are using. Just go to PubMed. You'll have several manuscripts. You go to Google Scholar, you will have several manuscripts. Go to Midlin, you'll have several. Go to Cochrane, these are search engines. Go to Cochrane, you'll have several. You go to PubMed, you go to Google Scholar, you go to Midlin, you go to Cochrane. You'll have several manuscripts, Njao, and you can copy from that. But if you want me to share, I've also got several that we've done. I can also share. Thank you. And over back to you, Nelly.
Thank you, Duncan, for that. Issa Lama, maybe you will interact with Issa Lama when you have time on the chat. He's asking for your phone number. He's maybe had some more questions or concerns that they will want to ask you.
I'm sharing now.
I don't know if, okay. Ali Ahmed, I hope I answered you. The presenter had PowerPoints, and then after that, he presented a Word document. So I think that's where the confusion came in, but I hope you are answered. Ali Ahmed Adan. The other question comes from Brian Karani. Brian Karani, it's a question that starts with so. We are allowed to have these subheadings in the abstract and manuscripts, not in prose. So he's asking, are we allowed to have subheadings in abstracts and manuscripts and not written in prose? Yes, Duncan, you can take that.
Thank you so much for that question. For the title, we are allowed to have it. If you are following closely, you saw I shared my titles. They were in continuous prose. We don't have any subheading again in a title. So like a title like malaria data quality audit is a game changer in early detection and monitoring of malaria epidemics. Then double colon, a situational analysis of West Pokot sub-county this year. That is just a continuous prose, is allowed in a continuous prose, and that is the rule of thumb. We cannot have subheadings in the title.
Sorry, Duncan, he's asking about in the abstract or in the manuscript. The abstract, subtitles in the abstract.
Topics in the manuscript is allowed. Is allowed, okay. But in the abstract is not allowed. Abstract, because abstract we are only following the IMRAD. When you want to talk about introduction, you narrow it down is an introduction. When you talk about methods, you just discuss the methods. When you talk about results, you just go to the results. When you want to talk about conclusion, just the conclusion. But in the manuscript, manuscript is a detailed one. You can have the subtopics. I think I've answered him. Nelly?
Yes, you have. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. The next question comes from Jovin Baraza. Jovin asks, how do we avoid repeating results in the discussion section?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jovin. I said very well that in the results section, you tell us you talk of what you gotten. Like out of 175 cases that were tested, are you getting me? Out of 179 cases that were tested, the mean value was, the mean of was this 25 with interquartile range of this. Male constituted this, like male constituted 94.5%, while female was this. Of this, malaria positivity rate was this, and the negativity rate was this, like that. So when you come to the discussion, you don't repeat what you gotten up there. That out of this, what? You just say this was this and this. You just discuss just in totality what you got. That this was this was this. That is just in the discussion. You don't repeat what you had. That this value was this value was this value was this. Like you want to say the positivity rate was this. You talk of the positivity rate was this, but male were most affected. Are you getting that? You don't repeat what you are discussed in the results section. Let results only have the figures. 179, 80%, the proportions, 80%, 20%, 1.7%, this and this and this and this. So you use the words to explain the figures that you had as the 80%, the 90%, and the rest. Thank you, and over.
Thank you. A comment here from Benson Kangeve. Benson says it takes composure and concentration to analyze data. Well done, sir. That's to you, Duncan. Then there's Brian Karani. So Brian asks, in case it's a proposal, how well would I bring out my abstract? What are some of the avenues to present my proposal online before institutional presentation? So he has two questions there. How well would I bring out my abstract, if in case it's a proposal? And then what are some of the avenues to present my proposal online before institutional presentation?
Thank you so much for that question. In a proposal, I tend to believe you're having a protocol. So in the protocol or the proposal that you got, I've said abstract is a summary of what you've done. So it depends with the proposal that you have. You've got the introduction. We can still piece it together to have the IMRAD format, whereby we've got the introduction, we've got the methods, we've got now the after maybe you've got the results and you've got the conclusion. So you can actually piece it together depending on the institution. How many words do they require? Because majority of the institution and majority of the organization, they usually have what we call the word limits, or the words are usually capped to something like 300, 250. So when you have word limits like 250, then you need to fine tune and you need to sieve it well so that you reduce the word, you avoid unnecessary words. So when you want to talk about introduction, you talk about very few words, methods, very few words, results, maybe a little bit, discussion and conclusion, so that you cap it to 250, the kind of the number of word limit that is acceptable in the institution. Then online presentation, when you have a proposal, maybe you can just share, depending on whom you'd want to present this proposal to. You can do the invitation and you do the online presentation, even to your friends. You can invite people. You can also do just organize for a webinar, or you can organize for something just online. You invite people and you present. Mostly maybe the classmates or the workmates, you can decide and you do the same. Maybe if you are in an organization, you can request them that you're having a presentation which is like a mock or just a dry run before the final defense, and is allowed. You can always have your audience depending on the audience. Thank you, and back to you, Nelly.
Thank you so much, Dan. I think this should be our last question now. Jovin Baraza asked, are we not supposed to interpret our results in the results section? And can you recommend a good journal? Yeah, there.
Jovin, I think you never got me right. I said results is only for results. Where you are supposed to interpret your results is in discussion section. Results you are only presenting the results. You don't discuss the results in results section. You discuss it in the discussion section. Then you conclude after that. After you've discussed it, you conclude and you recommend. But these ones are in now. The recommendation is now in the manuscript, is not in the is not in the abstract section. Then I would, depending on each and every journal, on the recommendation of the journal, I would also say that it also depends with because some of the journals are usually very expensive, as expensive as 50,000 plus. But we've also got journals that are also good, but they're equally cheap. But you can also, on the same note and breadth, you can also request for a waiver if you are a student. There's usually a waiver. But the journal that I would recommend, we can go for the 4 journals that are better. We can go for Frontiers, is good, and it has it is very fast, is not expensive, and is very pocket friendly. We have BMC. BMC is also pocket friendly, but a little bit expensive. Then we have London Journal of Tropical Hygiene, I think, or something of that kind. It's called STMH. STMH is also good, but we also have PLOS, which is very fast and is widely read, but is very expensive. So we've got three. I have Frontiers, I've got BMC, and I've also got PLOS. You can use that. But we've got several journals. If you want, maybe depending on what you have, I've already shared my number. You can reach me so that we can get for you a better journal to maybe send your work to. Thank you, and over, Nelly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dan, for that elaborating presentation and answering the questions and reacting to the questions meticulously. Thank you so much. Thank you, members, for creating time to be here and learn and be able to raise up your concerns that have been tackled so well, and taking your time off duty, and even those who are on duty, just to be here together with us to learn. And thank you, LMSK, for organizing this and for putting up these together so that we can learn and we can improve ourselves, our facilities, and even the rest of the nation and even the world. Little by little, we are making the world better by this. Thank you. Thank you, members. We're looking forward to see you again on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for such educative and motivating webinars that are organized by LMSK. We want to take this opportunity to just say thank you and karibuni tena. Have a great evening. We'd like to end this webinar at this juncture. Great evening and enjoy your weekend.